I don't know if you've ever been to Uluru. It's the giant red rock that sits geographically at the heart of these lands now called Australia. Uluru takes my breath away. I was there in 2019 for the closing of the climb on Uluru, a moment the local Aboriginal peoples, the Anangu, had waited for over 30 years. I was in awe of the beauty of the sunrise, the Australian desert, the vibrancy of the red dust. The morning after the climb closed, I rose early and I sat in the darkness of the dawn. That awe took me to the extraordinariness of the rock in size, shape, and location. The ancient stories of the Anangu held in every crevice, cave, and waterhole. And that awe has stayed with me. But a question also came to mind. What if awe could change how we see one another? And why do we need to see one another differently? Well, we have a problem. It's a problem I never thought I would see in my lifetime. It starts at the Australian dinner table. The once taboo topics of discussion were simple. Don't talk religion and politics, and don't talk death and taxes. But the topics that family and friends can no longer talk to each other about now extends to vaccinations, road rules, e-scooters, gender diversity, world leaders. It then extends to the Australian nation. Welcome to country, immigration, flags, climate change. And then our world. Ukraine, Russia, Palestine, Israel, nations retreating from globalization to nationalism. Family split, a divided nation, a fractured world. Pain, suffering, hurting, broken, sick. Humanity has a problem. So where did we go wrong? In a world of influencers, we have lost people to reels and stories where we just scroll on by. In a world of algorithms, headlines, and clickbait, we have lost people to sides, positions, and labels where we are now political beings instead of human beings. In a world of access to information, we have lost people to misinformation and disinformation, where facts no longer matter and there is no time for detail. We lost seeing awe in each other. We lost seeing awe in our humanity. But there are experiences of awe that can help people to connect. It's often awe in nature. Awe in nature takes us to something bigger, something outside of ourselves. Some even describe themselves as awe hunters. It's those wow moments, the wow moments that live in our memories. For me, it's when my eyes go big. There's an element of surprise, and what is before me is extraordinary. As I try to connect my story with yours, perhaps some of the places I have experienced awe will help to connect to your memories. In these lands now called Australia, the Great Barrier Reef, Kangaroo Island, the Daintree Rainforest, the Pinnacles, the Great Ocean Road, and in our world, the Grand Canyon, Niagara Falls, Mount Fuji, the cliffs of Moa, Assisi. Often awe is described as a feeling, an experience, but it can become an item that we tick off the bucket list and then we race to the next. Awe can often be reduced to a photo or a post on social media. But awe slows us down, helps us to connect, and opens us to story. And story is so important. Story helps us to connect with each other. And so that connection of awe that we bring together with each other. And so imagine moving from those experiences that we get in nature or in nature, those experiences, those feelings we get looking at extraordinary things and extraordinary places, and moving to awe in humanity, to look upon each other in awe, experiencing the extraordinary in the everyday. And so when I think of awe, I wondered, and as I think of story, I wondered, what if I could help people to understand a deeper, ancient even, experience and understanding of awe? I am an Aboriginal woman, a Waka Waka woman, part of peoples of the world's oldest living continuing cultures. These lands now called Australia have an ancient story. It's a story that is thousands of years old, a story that is in my DNA, a story that runs through my blood. As an Aboriginal person, I learn from stories that are thousands of years old. I walk songlines of ancient pathways. I listen deeply to country, all lands, waters, sky, trees, plants, animals, birds, fish, rocks, mountains, and all peoples. I know that everything is connected and interconnected. These lands now called Australia have a shared story. The story of peoples of many cultures over the last 250 years. But it's also a story for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples of dispossession, destruction, and death, of injustice and inequality. But on the other side, intergenerational trauma lives in my mind and body as a result of colonization and the ongoing impacts of colonization. But on the other side of intergenerational trauma is intergenerational memory, a memory that endures despite colonization, a memory that has been passed on through over 2,000 generations of my family, a collective memory, a memory of thriving. And it's those memories that we need to hold on to. It's community that has sustained my peoples for thousands of years, through the ancient story, through the shared story, and a story that continues today. And so, what would happen if we wove that story into our own lives? If we looked upon one another with awe? Awe helps us to slow down, to connect, and to bring us together. And when we think about those wow moments, as though we can connect with awe. Because when we have awe together as peoples, we see each other as connected, as extraordinary, worthy of curiosity. It's the curiosity that we see in children as they learn something new, as they experience something for the first time. It's when they say, wow, 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 over and over and over again. It's the curiosity we see in the kindness of the stranger. It's the curiosity we see in the uniqueness of the design of every person. It's a wow that helps us to slow down and helps us to pay attention and helps us to take a big breath. It's a wow that makes me want to lean in and take a step towards my fellow human. It's a wow that draws us into the circle of community. Indigenous people's worldview is cyclical as opposed to linear. It is the circle that brings equality. It is in the circle that you can see every person and every person is seen. It is the circle that brings us into and shows us community. And it is in the circle where we can tell story without interruption. It is a story that continues today. It's a story and an awe that has been there since the beginning of time. From when the light first broke the darkness over the earth. From when God spoke, "Let there be light." From when Creator gave the first elders the story of the first sunrise. And that story continues for all of us today. Every day at sunrise, Creator looks upon the canvas of the world, takes up the paintbrush, and in hues of orange, purple, and red, applies it so that people can look upon it and await the new story to unfold. Awe may be experienced in nature, but awe is held by humans and is in humans. Awe is there in our hearts that beat in rhythm with another. Awe is in our lungs that breathe the same air as another. Awe is in our eyes that look upon another. What would happen if we stood in front of another person, another human being, and we paused long enough to wonder, what story has shaped the person in front of me? Why have we been connected? How is my healing bound up in your healing? Awe is not a momentary burst of wonder. Awe is a deep knowing. That morning at Uluru, as I sat in the darkness of the dawn, I saw first light touch the rock. And that image, that visual has stayed with me. But it also made me wonder. In that moment, at that day, at Uluru at sunrise, the heart of our nation became a giant set of lungs. Those lungs exhaled breath that had been held for decades, if not for 2 centuries, and then inhaled and exhaled and inhaled and exhaled. The rock at the heart of our nation was able to breathe again. And in that moment, I realized I had been holding my breath too. I exhaled. I allowed myself to breathe again. And in that moment, my mind wondered and has wondered ever since. What would happen if we looked upon each other with awe? And in that moment, it was as though my humanness was at one with nature, as though my heart beat in time with the rock, as though my lungs breathed in time with the rock. And through that wondering, I wondered, if we can stand in front of another person, another human being, if we can look into each other's eyes, but if we can stand in front of another human being and look into each other's eyes, not with fear, nor division, nor judgment, nor argument, nor busyness, but in awe. Awe weaves people and planet together and leads us to story. Story weaves ancient and new, past and present, pride and pain together and leads us to belonging. Belonging weaves individuals, families, nations together and leads us to community. And community makes healing possible and leads us to thriving. If we can stand in front of another person, another human, with the same wow, the same reverence, the same urgency of memory as we do in front of extraordinary places, perhaps then, perhaps we would all be able to breathe again. Perhaps we would see the unity, the beauty of our unity in our diversity. And perhaps, with awe in humanity, we would all thrive and have a world that truly lives in peace.